So we're going to jump back into the testimony of Richard Morgan KC to the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry, and the temperature is certainly rising as we go through the attendance note between Jason Bate and Richard Morgan KCs. Seems that the attendance note suggests that the issue is dealt with privately due to the risks involved, and that the Post Office privately discuss with MPs individual cases to try to get to the bottom of their concerns, and in the words of the attendance note, discuss any cases that they are interested in. It also suggests a PR exercise where sub-postmasters are sent a Horizon feedback form to let them know how they're getting on with it in an attempt to find out if there are any issues with Horizon. Richard Morgan KC does concede that the aim of a PR exercise is, in effect, to save face and to placate the growing anger coming from sub-postmasters due to the injustices they are facing. Let's jump into the inquiry.
Can we read on? It is said that Post Office will always have this problem. Some people will never trust computers and will always believe they have an inherent problem.
And this comes back to our favourite thing. All computers have problems because humans implement things in imperfect ways. Humans program the computers, therefore the computers have problems. It's not about having some radical distrust of computers. They're neither trustworthy nor untrustworthy. The data that comes from them comes from programs that are written by humans, and humans are prone to mistakes. Robust testing, documentation, review and bug fixing can reduce those risks, but it cannot eliminate them. That isn't to say that on specific occasions there is always a bug occurring. However, the more bugs that there are in the system, you increase the likelihood of a bug having occurred at specific moments in time that you were looking at.
Was that a view that you held at the time?
I think it's likely that it would have been a view that I held at that time, yes.
It continues, a less risky approach is to agree to take the relevant MPs privately through particular cases in which they are interested. Is that, given the limitations that you have expressed already on the type of role that you would perform, advice that you would give or would have given?
That's likely, yes.
I mean, essentially it's saying keep it out of the public spotlight, because if this goes south, it's not going to look good. And as we've seen from the emerging Post Office scandal, certainly the absolute eruption following Mr. Bates versus the Post Office airing on ITV, we've seen that absolutely. Of course the public is outraged by this because it looks like a monumental disaster with so many human casualties.
The problem with all of this is that my information, or the information provided to me, never extended to identifying specific problems. It was a generic, there's a problem with. I never felt that any individual was ever going to answer everybody's concerns in a generic sense. And so if there were particular cases, then it was appropriate to examine those particular cases on an item-by-item basis.
That's a different point to don't instruct an expert, because the expert might uncover problems with Horizon and you will thereby face more claims, isn't it? Which seems to be the effect of the third bullet point.
It does seem to be the effect of the third bullet point, but I'm not sure that that's quite what it's getting at. I mean, there are problems.
I mean, if we kind of summarise that third bullet point in the way Jason Bate's characterisation, it's almost saying don't ask questions because there's a potential you might not like the answers. I mean, that's not in the spirit of justice, ethics or morals, but it is a factual statement. You know, if you start asking these questions of the system, be prepared to be disappointed with the answers that you could possibly receive.
With any computer system, there can be problems. There can be screen freezes, there can be loss of data, and so on and so forth, in any hypothetical system. And I'm just giving an example. Some of those problems might be quite innocuous. Some of them might cause no loss of data, no changes, whatever. But if you get a report that comes back and says, well, you get screen freezes or there are power cuts, then all that does is set a hair running. The only way to look at a problem like this, in my opinion, sitting here now, is to look at specific examples and work out what went wrong. And that seems to be what I'm articulating in the pre-penultimate paragraph. A less risky approach is to agree to take the relevant MPs privately through particular cases in which they're interested. So work through specific examples and see if there's a problem.
But without the involvement of an independent expert?
Well, there could be an independent expert.
The note continues, the Post Office needs to engage with its stakeholders by perhaps sending out a questionnaire about Horizon to sub-postmasters, getting their views and seeking to address the more sensible ones. This is more a PR exercise. Is that advice that you gave?
That would certainly have been interesting to see the results of any such survey. I mean, I'm guessing it never happened, but, you know, again, it is a kind of informal way, I guess, of getting a handle on, do we potentially have a widespread problem here?
I don't know.
Would you understand a PR exercise to be something that is done to look good to the outside world?
Yes.
And to placate the sub-postmasters?
Yes.
Would you regard that as appropriate advice to give to a private corporation?
No, well, a private corporation wants to keep its customer base happy, but a private corporation also wants to find out if there are problems with its systems. Now, if there are problems with your systems and the stakeholders express and articulate what those problems are in a way that's identifiable, then of course you should engage with them.
As in, don't bury your head in the sand, actually look into issues when they're raised to you. And we know on several occasions, not least from sub-postmasters, but also from other areas within the post office and outside, people raised concerns, and it very much looks like they did do there. We're going to bury our head in the sand. We're going to stick our fingers in our ears and go la 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 and pretend it's not happening.
The last bullet point records that you're happy to discuss possible approaches and merits of each with the board of the Post Office at any time.
Yes.
That certainly suggests that no decision was reached in the course of this consultation, if nothing else.
Let me be frank, Mr. Beer. From what I can remember, which is close to nothing, as assisted by my Chambers records, some people turned up in Chambers and we had a preliminary discussion about the possibility of being instructed. So the suggestion that this represents concluded, considered advice, I think is putting it a little high.
Nobody suggested that,
no.
Other than you.
Yeah, but the way you're suggesting that this is a record of a definitive piece of advice given after consideration, I think it's perhaps a little unfair.
We're working with what you and your instructing solicitors have given to us.
Those are not mine. Those are my former instructing solicitors.